The news of clean energy projects driving China's GDP growth in 2023 is indeed significant. China's investment in decarbonization infrastructure, nearly matching global spending on fossil fuels, reflects a profound commitment to sustainability. With renewable energy, particularly wind and solar, taking precedence, China's strides in combating climate change are commendable. However, challenges such as potential overcapacity in electric vehicles and trade barriers warrant attention. Nevertheless, China's leadership in clean energy underscores the urgency of global climate action and the need for concerted efforts to balance economic growth with environmental preservation. Clean energy projects were the largest driver of China's economic growth in 2023, with Beijing investing nearly as much in decarbonization infrastructure as total global investment in fossil fuels, according to a report released Thursday. China is the world's biggest emitter of greenhouse gases driving climate change, but it is also the top producer of wind and solar energy. Faced with soaring energy consumption, the country has turbocharged its use of renewables, but also in 2022 approved its largest expansion of coal-fired power plants since 2015, despite President Xi Jinping pledging to peak CO2 emissions between 2026 and 2030. Investment in clean energy sectors accounted for 40% of China's GDP expansion last year. Researchers at the Finland-based Center for Research on Energy and Clean Air, KREA, said in a new report on Thursday. With Chinese investment growing by just 1.5 trillion yuan in 2023 overall, the analysis shows that clean energy accounted for all of the growth, while investment in sectors such as real estate shrank, the researchers said. The researchers examined investment in solar power, electric vehicles, EVs, energy efficiency, railways, energy storage, electricity grids, wind, nuclear, and hydropower. These sectors received $890 billion in investment, almost as much as the total global investment in fossil fuels last year, KREA researchers said. Without the growth from clean energy sectors, China's GDP would have missed the government's growth target of around 5%, rising by only 3.0% instead of 5.2%, the researchers found. China's reliance on the clean technology sectors to drive growth and achieve key economic targets boosts their economic and political importance, the researchers said. It could also support an accelerated energy transition. EV glut. They warned, however, that China could soon have excess capacity in the sector and that there is a limit to how much solar power, batteries, and other clean technology can be absorbed. To keep driving investment growth, clean technology manufacturing would need to not only absorb as much capital as it did in 2023, but keep increasing investment year after year, the researchers said. The threat of overcapacity is beginning to trouble Chinese policymakers, with Vice Minister of Industry Xin Guobin saying that some businesses had been blindly rushing in and building redundant new energy vehicle projects. Xin said at a press conference last week that the government would take measures to crack down on unnecessary EV projects. Buoyed by years of government subsidies, China's electric car industry has exploded in the past decade, with homegrown BYD overtaking U.S. carmaker Tesla in electric vehicle sales last quarter. Between 2014 and the end of 2022, the Chinese government said it had spent more than 200 billion yuan, $28 billion, on subsidies and tax breaks for EV purchases alone. Companies in other industries are looking to grab a share of the pie, including consumer electronics giant Xiaomi, which unveiled its first electric car model last month. Face problems, however, including insufficient consumer demand and trade barriers in other markets, with many businesses still struggling to make a profit, Xin warned at a press conference on Friday. International Energy Agency Chief Fatih Birol warned last week that trade barriers in the clean energy sector could slow down the global energy transition. Both the United States and European countries have signaled they might adopt more protectionist policies to bolster their green sectors. Washington is considering raising tariffs on Chinese EVs, as well as other goods like solar cells, media reports said in December. EVs are already subjected to a 25% import fee introduced on Chinese automobiles during Donald Trump's administration. In October, the EU announced a probe into China's EV subsidies after accusations that the resulting products undercut European competitors. The bloc is also mulling a separate investigation into Chinese support for its manufacturers of wind turbines. The world is reducing its reliance on fossil fuels. Except for three key sectors, humanity has made some uneven progress in reducing our addiction to fossil fuels. But there remain 3 areas of our lives in which we are notably not on track to kick the habit over the next 30 years, according to a new analysis. Record levels of investment in clean energy. Solar has been called the cheapest source of electricity in history by the International Energy Agency, and a decline in coal-powered generation means less and less of the world's power will come from fossil fuels between now and 2050, the analysis from Rhodium shows. Similarly, the blossoming electric vehicle market is going to drive down emissions from cars and trucks, with global oil consumption for on-road vehicles set to drop by 50% over the next 3 decades, the forecast finds. But even with these dramatic changes reshaping 2 of the world's hungriest consumers of fossil fuels, emissions are still a long way from hitting net zero by 2050, as scientists say they must if dangerous global heating, spurring worsening heat waves, floods, droughts, and more, is to be avoided. A major reason for this is the stubborn ongoing carbon pollution from 3 areas: aviation, shipping, and industry. There is currently no widespread alternative to jet fuel or ship diesel, meaning steady or even rising fossil fuel use as developing countries' economies grow. A range of industrial processes, such as cement making and the production of plastic, will collectively fail to cut carbon-intensive fuels by 2050 too meaningfully. We've made a lot of progress in the last few years. Wind and solar are poster children of success, and electric vehicles are at a turning point now, said Hannah Pitt, Associate Director at Rhodium, which made the projections based on anticipated policies until 2050. That makes up a good chunk of emissions, but there is much less progress in other sectors. With aviation and shipping, there's just not as much innovation and no clear cost-effective alternatives to fossil fuels. And then we have industrial processes that make up a huge fraction of emissions, and each requires their tools and innovations to bring that down, and emissions are staying stubbornly high. All told, global fossil fuel use will likely flatten or decline by mid-century before starting to grow again due to rising energy demand in various parts of the world, according to the report's projections. Gas will lead the way, rising significantly in use even as oil and coal decline. Pitt said we are still a long way from breaking our dependence on fossil fuels in everything from switching on a light at home to driving a car to getting an Amazon package delivered to flying to a holiday destination. The success with renewables and EVs shows it can be done, but it will take many different policies and innovations. There's no one solution, said Pitt. This is a good reminder that climate change touches every piece of our economies, and it needs solutions to each of those areas. There is a lot of work to do. Thank you.